I thought my daughter was building her career in Vancouver's tech scene until a barista slipped me a note that made my hands shake. The note was simple, written on the back of a receipt. Your daughter Emma isn't in Vancouver. Ask about Serenity Pines. A friend. I stood there in the Tim Hortons on Bloor Street, watching the young woman who'd handed it to me disappear into the morning rush. My coffee went cold in my hand. Emma had been gone for 14 months. 14 months of sparse texts, occasional voice messages, and exactly 3 video calls where she looked tired but insisted everything was fine. Just busy with the startup, Dad, she'd say. You know how it is in tech. Her husband, Marcus Chen, always had an explanation ready. The company was in stealth mode. Emma was working ungodly hours. The project was confidential. I'm 63 years old, and I've spent my life trusting people. Maybe that was my first mistake. My wife, Dorothy, passed away 2 years ago from cancer. In those final months, Emma was there every day, holding her mother's hand, managing medications, being strong when I couldn't be. When Dorothy died, something shifted in Emma. She threw herself into her marriage, into Marcus's dreams of entrepreneurship. 6 months later, they moved to Vancouver for his incredible opportunity. Or so we thought. I drove home to my house in North York, that receipt burning a hole in my pocket. Serenity Pines. I opened my laptop and searched. The results made my stomach drop. Serenity Pines Wellness Retreat, a private facility north of Barrie, about an hour from Toronto. Specialized care for professionals experiencing burnout and mental health challenges. The website showed serene photos of pine forests, modern buildings, smiling staff members. It looked legitimate. It looked expensive. It looked nothing like where my daughter should be. That evening, I called Marcus. He answered on the 4th ring, his voice smooth and unconcerned. Richard, hey, everything okay? I need to talk to Emma, I said, keeping my voice steady. She's in a meeting. Big presentation tomorrow. You know how it is. It's 8 o'clock at night. Tech never sleeps. He laughed, that easy laugh that had charmed us all when Emma first brought him home 3 years ago. I'll have her call you this weekend. Marcus, where exactly in Vancouver are you living? A pause. Just a heartbeat. But I caught it. Why do you ask? I'm thinking of visiting. Want to surprise Emma. Oh man, that's really sweet, but the timing's terrible. We're heads down on this product launch. Maybe in a couple months? His voice was still friendly, still casual, but something felt rehearsed about it. Hey, I've got to run. Board meeting in 5. I'll tell Emma you called. He hung up before I could respond. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I pulled out every piece of communication I'd had with Emma in the past 14 months. The pattern was obvious once I looked for it. Text messages came at odd hours, always brief. Voice messages were generic. Could have been recorded any time. Those 3 video calls, I pulled them up on my phone and watched them again. Emma's background was always the same. A plain white wall, minimalist desk, nothing identifying. Her eyes looked not quite right. Tired, yes, but something else. Something hollow. The next morning, I called Emma's best friend, Priya, who lived in Mississauga. We met for breakfast at a diner off the 401. Have you heard from Emma? I asked after we'd ordered. Priya's face fell. Not in months. I tried calling on her birthday last October. Marcus said she was too busy to talk. I sent texts, emails, nothing. She stirred her coffee, not meeting my eyes. Richard, I didn't want to worry you, but it's not like Emma. Even when she's busy, she always responds. Always. Did she ever mention Serenity Pines? Priya's head snapped up. The wellness place? Why would? She stopped, her eyes widening. Oh God. You don't think. I don't know what to think. But I'm going to find out. I hired a private investigator that afternoon. His name was David Okonkwo, a former Toronto police detective who'd gone private 5 years earlier. We met at his office in Scarborough, and I showed him everything. The note, the texts, my concerns about Marcus. You want me to confirm if your daughter's at this facility? He asked, scanning through the information on his laptop. I want you to find out where my daughter actually is, and what Marcus is hiding. David nodded slowly. Serenity Pines is interesting. Private, expensive, very exclusive. The kind of place where wealthy families send their difficult relatives. With the right paperwork, someone could be kept there indefinitely. He looked up at me. If your daughter's there against her will, that's false imprisonment. That's criminal. Can you get me proof? I can try. But Richard, if what you're suspecting is true, this could get dangerous. Marcus would have had to falsify documents, possibly bribe staff, create an entire fabricated reality. People who do that don't just fold when confronted. I don't care about dangerous. She's my daughter. Over the next 3 weeks, David worked his investigation while I maintained normalcy with Marcus. I texted him updates about my life, asked casual questions about Emma's work, played the role of the trusting father-in-law. It killed me to do it. Every cheerful message felt like a betrayal of Emma. But David said we needed Marcus complacent, unsuspecting, while we built our case. David's first report came back on a Tuesday. Emma's credit cards hadn't been used since 2 months after the supposed move to Vancouver. Her bank accounts showed no activity except automatic transfers, large sums moving monthly from her savings to an account in Marcus's name. Her phone's location data, which David obtained through contacts I didn't ask about, pinged exclusively from the Barrie area. Not Vancouver. Never Vancouver. She's at Serenity Pines, David confirmed when we met. I've had a surveillance team watching the facility. They've photographed residents during outdoor exercise periods. Emma's there. He slid a photo across the desk. I picked it up with shaking hands. It was Emma, but not the Emma I knew. She looked thin, her hair shorter, wearing simple gray clothing. She was walking in a courtyard surrounded by tall fences, a staff member beside her. The photo was taken from a distance, but I'd know my daughter anywhere. What the hell is he doing to her? I whispered. That's what we need to find out. I've got a contact, a nurse who just left Serenity Pines. She's willing to talk, but she's scared. The place isn't quite what it advertises. We met the nurse, Jennifer Kowalski, at a coffee shop in Newmarket. She was in her late 20s, nervous, her eyes darting to the door every few minutes. I only worked there for 4 months, she said. I couldn't stay after I realized what was happening. Some patients are there legitimately, getting real help, but others, she pulled out her phone. I took photos. I could get in serious trouble for this. The photos showed documents. Admission forms for Emma Thornton, my daughter's married name. The diagnosis: severe bipolar disorder with psychotic features. The admitting physician: Dr. Raymond Blackwell, Serenity Pines medical director. The person who'd signed the admission papers: Marcus Chen, as her husband and legal guardian. This is all fake, I said, my voice breaking. Emma doesn't have bipolar disorder. She's never had anything like this. Jennifer nodded. I know. I talked to her a few times when I was assigned to her unit. She was completely lucid, completely rational. She kept saying there'd been a mistake, that she needed to call her father, that her husband had brought her there under false pretenses. But her chart said she had delusions, that she couldn't be trusted. Jennifer's hands were shaking. The thing is, Mr. Thornton, she's not the only one. There are at least 3 other patients in similar situations. Wealthy families warehousing inconvenient relatives. Serenity Pines charges $40,000 a month. It's lucrative for them to ask fewer questions. How long has Emma been there? According to her chart, 13 months. Since a month after she supposedly moved to Vancouver. The timeline clicked into place with horrible clarity. Marcus had never taken Emma to Vancouver. He'd taken her to Serenity Pines, checked her in with falsified medical records, and created an elaborate fiction of her new life. The texts, the voice messages, the carefully controlled video calls, all designed to keep me from looking too closely. Why would he do this? I asked, though part of me already knew. David pulled out another folder. I've been digging into Marcus's finances. He's been systematically draining Emma's accounts. Your daughter has a trust fund from her mother's estate, right? About $800,000? Had, I corrected, my voice hollow. Dorothy left it to her. It was supposed to be for Emma's future, for her children someday. It's gone, transferred out in increments over the past year. Marcus has been living quite well in a condo downtown, driving a new BMW, investing in crypto ventures, all funded by Emma's money. As her husband, he had access to the accounts. And with her locked away and declared mentally incompetent, there was no one to stop him. I felt rage then, pure and burning. This man had taken my daughter, stolen her freedom, her money, her life, and smiled to my face while doing it. He'd used my grief over Dorothy's death, my trust, my desire to see Emma happy. He'd played me perfectly. What are my options? I asked. David leaned forward. Legally, it's complicated. Marcus has documentation saying Emma's mentally ill, and he's acting in her best interests. We'd need to prove the diagnosis is false, that he falsified records, that he's holding her against her will. That takes time. Courts move slowly. In the meantime, Emma stays at Serenity Pines. Or, I prompted, because I could hear it in his voice. Or we go another route. Jennifer can testify about what she witnessed. I have evidence of the financial fraud. If we approach the right people at Serenity Pines, make it clear we have proof of their complicity, they might cooperate rather than face criminal charges and a lawsuit that would destroy their reputation. Do it, I said, whatever it takes. The next week was a masterclass in strategic pressure. David contacted Serenity Pines' legal department with a carefully worded letter outlining what we knew and what we could prove. Jennifer provided a sworn statement detailing the irregularities in Emma's care and the suspicious circumstances of her admission. David's contacts in the media were alerted that a major story about a private facility holding patients against their will might be breaking soon. Within 48 hours, Serenity Pines' lawyers called. They wanted to meet. The meeting took place in a boardroom at their lawyer's office in downtown Toronto. Dr. Blackwell was there, looking gray and diminished. The facility's CEO, Patricia Hammond, sat rigid in her chair. Their lawyers flanked them like bodyguards. "My client denies any wrongdoing," one of the lawyers began. David cut him off. "Your client has been holding my client's daughter prisoner for 13 months based on falsified medical records. We have testimony from your staff. We have financial records showing systematic fraud. We have evidence that Dr. Blackwell accepted payments from Marcus Chen to admit Emma Thornton without proper psychiatric evaluation. You can deny all you want. We're prepared to go to the police, the media, and the College of Physicians and Surgeons. Your facility will be destroyed." Patricia Hammond's face went white. "What do you want?" "I want my daughter released immediately," I said, speaking for the first time. "I want full access to her medical records. I want Dr. Blackwell's medical license. And I want your complete cooperation in the criminal case against Marcus Chen." "If we cooperate," Patricia said carefully, "can we negotiate the media exposure? The other families whose loved ones are receiving legitimate care." "I don't give a damn about your reputation," I interrupted, "but I'm not interested in punishing innocent patients. You release Emma, you cooperate fully, you make restitution, and we'll consider limiting the public scandal. You fight us, and I'll make sure everyone in Canada knows what you've been doing." They agreed. It still took 2 more days of legal wrangling, of David and the lawyers negotiating terms, of me pacing my living room at 3 in the morning wondering if Emma would even remember me, if 13 months in that place had damaged her beyond repair. Finally, on a cold Thursday afternoon in March, I drove to Serenity Pines with David beside me and Priya in the back seat. The facility looked exactly like its website photos. Modern buildings nestled among pine trees, beautiful and serene and evil. A staff member met us at reception. "Mr. Thornton, if you'll follow me." They'd put Emma in a private room to wait. When the door opened and I saw her, I couldn't hold back the tears. She was sitting in a chair by the window, looking out at the trees. She'd lost weight. Her face was thinner, but her eyes, when she turned and saw me, her eyes were clear. "Dad?" Her voice broke. "Dad, is that really you?" I crossed the room and pulled her into my arms. She collapsed against me, sobbing, her whole body shaking. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew you'd come," she whispered. "Marcus said you didn't want to see me, that you blamed me for Mom's death, but I knew he was lying. I knew you'd come. Always, I promised. Always." Priya was crying too, hugging Emma from the other side. David stood by the door, giving us privacy, but I saw him wipe his eyes. Getting Emma out of Serenity Pines was just the beginning. We took her straight to Toronto Western Hospital, where real doctors, not corrupt ones on Marcus's payroll, evaluated her. Their conclusion was clear. Emma had no signs of bipolar disorder, no psychotic features, no mental illness beyond the trauma of her imprisonment. She'd been drugged, gaslit, and isolated, but her mind was intact. "She's remarkably resilient," her psychiatrist told me. The fact that she maintained her sense of self, her memory of reality, Through 13 months of people telling her she was crazy, that takes incredible strength. Marcus was arrested 3 days later. David had compiled everything: the falsified medical records, the financial fraud, testimony from Jennifer and 2 other Serenity Pines employees who'd witnessed irregularities. Marcus tried to run, actually made it to the airport with a one-way ticket to Hong Kong. The police caught him at the gate. The legal process took months. Marcus was charged with false imprisonment, fraud, conspiracy, and theft. Dr. Blackwell lost his medical license and faced criminal charges of his own. Serenity Pines settled with Emma for an undisclosed sum enough to replace the money Marcus had stolen, and then some. The facility implemented new protocols, fired several staff members, and somehow avoided being shut down entirely, though their reputation was permanently damaged. Marcus's trial was in November. Emma had to testify, had to face him across the courtroom while describing what he'd done. I sat behind her, Priya beside me, offering silent support. Marcus showed no remorse, blamed Emma for being difficult, claimed he'd acted out of concern for her mental health. The jury deliberated for 3 hours before finding him guilty on all counts. 22 years. That's what the judge gave him. You betrayed the trust of marriage, the judge said at sentencing. You imprisoned your wife, stole her freedom and her financial security, and you did it with premeditation and callousness. The sentence must reflect the severity of these crimes. Emma didn't cry when she heard the verdict. She just reached back and took my hand, squeezed it once, and exhaled. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. But it wasn't over. Not really. Emma moved back home with me. She started therapy, real therapy, with a trauma specialist. She had nightmares for months. There were days she couldn't get out of bed, days when the weight of what had been done to her was too much to bear. She struggled to trust people, struggled with crowds, struggled with the simple act of making decisions about her own life after being told for so long that she was incapable. Slowly, though, she healed. She started painting again, something she'd loved before Marcus. She reconnected with old friends. She began volunteering at a women's shelter, helping other survivors of domestic abuse. I know what it's like, she told me, when someone you love becomes your jailer. I can help them see they're not crazy. They're not alone. A year and a half after her release, Emma enrolled in a master's program in social work at the University of Toronto. I want to do something with this, she said. I don't want what happened to me to be meaningless. There are other people trapped like I was, and most of them don't have someone fighting to find them. She was right. Through her advocacy work and the publicity from Marcus's trial, 3 more cases of wrongful commitment at private facilities came to light. Emma testified before a provincial committee examining regulations for private psychiatric institutions. New laws were passed. Oversight increased. It wasn't enough, it's never enough, but it was something. I'm 65 now. Emma is 32, building a new life from the ashes of the old one. She dates cautiously, trusts carefully, but she laughs again. She has nightmares less frequently. She's writing a book about her experience. Sometimes I look at her and marvel at her strength, at how she survived something that would have destroyed a lesser person. I think about what would have happened if that barista hadn't slipped me the note, if I'd continued to believe Marcus's lies. Emma might still be at Serenity Pines, drugged and isolated and forgotten. The thought makes me sick. I've learned things from this nightmare. I've learned that trust, while precious, can't be blind. I've learned that when something feels wrong, it usually is, no matter how many reasonable explanations you're given. I've learned that evil often wears a charming face and speaks in a smooth voice. I've learned that the people we love most are often the most vulnerable to those who would exploit them. Most importantly, I've learned that you never stop fighting for your family. Never. Even when it seems impossible, even when the authorities tell you to back off, even when the person hurting your loved one has the law on their side, you find a way. You gather evidence. You build a case. You refuse to give up. Because that's what love means. Not the easy love of good times and happy memories, but the fierce love that storms the gates when your child is in danger. The love that won't accept lies, won't be placated by smooth words, won't rest until your family is safe. Emma and I have breakfast together every Sunday now. It's our ritual. We go to that same Tim Hortons on Bloor Street where this all began. Sometimes we talk about what happened. More often, we don't. We talk about her classes, her advocacy work, my garden, the neighbor's cat, Ordinary things that feel extraordinary after everything we've been through. Last Sunday, a young woman approached our table hesitantly. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said, "but are you Emma Thornton? I read about your case. I just wanted to say thank you. My sister was in a similar situation. Because of the laws that changed after what happened to you, we were able to get her out. She's home now. She's safe. So thank you." Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "I'm glad she's okay. Tell her she's not alone." After the woman left, Emma looked at me. "You know what the worst part was, Dad? Not the drugs, not the isolation, not even Marcus's betrayal. It was thinking that no one was looking for me, that everyone believed the lie, that I'd been erased." "You were never erased," I said. "Not for one moment. You were always my daughter. You were always real. And I never stopped looking." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I know that now. That's what saved me. Even in the darkest moments, I held on to the belief that you'd come, and you did. If you're reading this, if something in this story resonates with you, pay attention to that feeling. If someone you love has disappeared into vagueness, into generic messages, and canceled visits and explanations that don't quite add up, don't ignore it. Trust your instincts. Ask questions. Dig deeper. The person you love might be counting on you to see through the lies. And if you're the one trapped, if someone has you convinced that you're crazy or difficult, or that no one will believe you, hold on. Hold on to your sense of self. Hold on to your truth. Someone out there loves you enough to fight for you. Someone will come. I found my daughter because one brave barista saw something wrong and took a risk to tell me. Be that person if you can. When you see something that doesn't feel right, speak up. You might save someone's life. You might give a father the clue he needs to find his missing child. You might be the difference between someone staying lost and someone going home. Emma is home now. She's scarred but not broken. She's wary but not defeated. She's building a life that's entirely her own, free from manipulation and lies. Every morning when she texts me to say good morning, I feel grateful. Every Sunday when we sit together over coffee, I feel blessed. Marcus Chen sits in a federal prison. Dr. Blackwell's medical career is over. Serenity Pines operates under intense scrutiny. And Emma lives, truly lives, perhaps for the first time in her adult life. That's what justice looks like. That's what love looks like. That's what happens when you refuse to accept the lies, when you fight through the darkness, when you never give up on the people you love. My daughter is home. That's all that matters. That's everything.